I wanted to talk also about the Ludwig and Mang0 situation, which I think there's a very big lesson in for all of us. To catch you up to speed before we get out of here, Ludwig is a very big streamer, Ludwig, and there's another guy called Mang0. I think he's in the Smash Brothers community. I don't know anything about this guy, right? But I do know Ludwig, and I do know men. Ludwig hosted this big live stream event, bunch of ladies, bunch of men, everyone streaming on their own devices, doing whatever, right? And there was this guy called Mang0, and he's married, and he got really, really drunk, and he sexually harassed a few of the women that were on stream. He did really gross things like humping behind their heads, and he took his shirt off and continued after he was asked to stop, and made like lots of sexual motions towards much younger women who were clearly very uncomfortable. He's a very big guy. He was really drunk, really fucking gross. What he did is inexcusable, and he needs to learn from that. And he's been dropped by a bunch of orgs and brands and all that kind of stuff. He's getting consequences. This is good, right? This is a good thing. The women are okay. I to my knowledge, he didn't actually touch anyone, but it was still sexual harassment, right? At what is a work event. Bunch of streamers streaming together, that's a work event. And he's sexually harassing not co-workers, but peers, we'll say. Really gross stuff. That sucks. Ludwig it was his event. He was in charge of it, and he came out with a statement, rightfully condemning Mang0's behavior and saying this is gross. He's not going to be invited to any future events. Then a bunch of clips from that night came to light of Ludwig feeding alcohol to Mang0, who I don't know too much about this guy, but from what I've read online, apparently is an alcoholic, has tried to quit, struggles with alcoholism, whatever you want to call it, right? And Ludwig is feeding him alcohol, encouraging him to get drunk. He's got a breathalyzer with him, is consistently getting this guy to blow into the breathalyzer, and then celebrating every time his blood alcohol level gets higher and higher and higher. At one point, it was like 3 times the legal limit, which is like dangerous, right? And he's pushing this guy to drink, making everyone celebrate, really getting this guy to get drunker, drunker, and drunker, encouraging an alcoholic to binge drink. And a lot of people came out and they've said, you got this guy really drunk, and then he did some really dumb shit, and then you stabbed him in the back. You're the bad guy. I have a bit of a more nuanced take on this, and it is you need to be careful who you're friends with. This goes for men especially. You really got to be careful who you're friends with, okay? You should not be friends with someone or tolerate the behavior of someone who, at whatever level of sobriety or lack thereof they are, sexually harasses women and acts gross towards women in the way that Mang0 did. That is not a man that you want around. If one of your boys acts like that, you must check them. If they continue to act like that, you must cut them out, because that's a dangerous man to have around, and you do not want that person around you, around women especially, because that is a disaster waiting to happen, and it's not behavior that as men we can tolerate or accept or ignore or just turn a blind eye to. It's fucking gross, and it's not on. That said, you also should not be friends with someone who encourages you to act poorly. You should not be friends with someone who pushes you to do things that you will regret later. You should not be friends with someone who knows that you have struggled with alcoholism and pushes you to drink further. And even if you even if you have not struggled with alcoholism, you should not be friends with someone who turns you getting drunk into entertainment for everybody else, because they're laughing at you. You are the entertainment. You are being embarrassed, right? I'm certainly not going to defend this Mang0 guy, because what he did was really gross. to these girls. But what I will say is anyone who plies somebody else with alcohol for the entertainment of everybody else in the room, they're not your friend. That's not what a friend does. A friend looks after their mates. And yes, of course, you know, it was a streamed event and what they were doing was entertainment. But I still think it stands. In fact, I think it makes it a little bit worse. If you are, you know, a person with a large online audience and you're encouraging another person with a large online audience to embarrass themselves in front of peers and strangers while it's recorded, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, you know? It's like, in our reality, this guy sexually harassed 2 young women, but in another, he could have fucking thrown up all over himself. In another, he could have ended up in hospital. In another, he could have fallen over and really hurt himself. He could have gotten into a fight with somebody else. He could have gotten arrested. Like, there are so many terrible situations that can arise from using an alcoholic as entertainment and pushing them to become more drunk. Like, if you should not be friends with someone who encourages you to be the worst version of yourself, is what I'm saying. Obviously, it goes without saying. Well, actually, it doesn't go without saying because we don't say it enough. If you've got someone around that treats women like sexual objects without their consent and is really gross towards them, takes their clothes off and you know, puts sexual advances onto much younger, smaller, vulnerable women, you cut that guy out and you tell him why. You don't just ghost. You go, this is why I'm doing this, because that's unacceptable. Of course, that's true. But what's also true is you got to be careful with who you're friends with. And if someone uses the worst elements of you and the things that you struggle with and the dark side of you as entertainment for everybody else, and he pushes you further to become a version of you that you don't like, that's not your friend. That's someone who will laugh as you destroy yourself. And that's what happened. This Mang0 guy fucking ruined, he's not the victim here, but he ruined his career and irreparably damaged his reputation to entertain someone he thought was his friend, who immediately, after pushing this guy to be a fucking idiot, was like, whoa, this guy's a fucking idiot. Won't have him around anymore. It's like, man, you didn't look out for your friend. You didn't look out for the women at your event. You didn't look out for what was happening on stream for your young, impressionable viewers. You're a shit mate. I don't know. It's like whenever you see someone, you got to be careful of those people that push you to be a version of you that you don't like. This happens with peer pressure. I mean, it's what peer pressure is. You know, they push you to get too drunk, to do drugs that you don't want to do. The people pressure you into sex that you don't want to have. People pressure you into doing shit that could get you hurt. People pressure you into getting into fights with people that you don't even know. Like, all this kind of stuff, you got to be real careful of who you're friends with. You only want to be friends with people who push you to be a better version of you, who pull you out of those situations. You know, if I'm out with a mate and he's getting way too drunk, I'm taking him home. I'm not feeding him more alcohol, and I'm certainly not streaming him embarrassing himself. I don't know. It's just the whole thing makes me feel left me feeling very yucky. This Mang0 guy is not the victim, but Ludwig was not his friend in that situation. And as always, this is what always happens every single fucking time when men are reckless, when men don't check each other, when men push each other to be worse, women pay the price. almost every single time when men are left unchecked and when they push each other to be worse instead of push each other to be better, women are the ones who pay the ultimate price of that. And yes, men get hurt and experience consequences as well, but down the line, it always falls on a woman's head. When sports games are on, domestic violence spikes because gambling addicts lose. And it's because men fucking set up the gambling and men build the advertising and men do the gambling and men lose the money and men profit from other men losing that money and therefore incentivize men to become worse versions of themselves, and men lose their money and women pay the price. You can see it, man. It's not always super clear, but when men don't uplift each other and help each other become better and call each other to stop doing certain things, at some point in this giant long chain, it falls on women. Every time. And that's why it's so important who you're friends with, and also to be aware of the type of friend that you are. Like, are you doing that? Are you looking after your mates? Are you making sure that your friends are not doing bad things to themselves or to other people? Are you aware of who you're allowing around your female friends, around your family, around your other mates? Are you aware of your own actions and how they affect your friends and women and children? And like, what type of person are you? That's what I got from all of this, is like, what a fucking gross situation where men didn't look after themselves and each other, and the consequences for that fell on women, as it always does. That's it in a microcosm. This is a big societal chain that takes years and years and years and years and generations even, but it always makes its way to fall on women. But you got to see it in a night. Men pushing men to be worse, men not checking other men who are acting poorly, and guess who got hurt? It was women. So that's why it's important.